Ultra Magnus, a name once synonymous with discipline, loyalty, and unshakable strength. He was never the leader, never the icon like Optimus Prime, but to the Autobots, Magnus was the steadfast pillar, always carrying the heaviest burdens without hesitation. But in the Energon universe, the Magnus we see is no longer the same. He returns not as a symbol of strength, but as a victim of war. His body shattered and tortured, yet the worst damage was not to his armor, but to his very soul. Ultra Magnus saved RC at a young age after her clan was killed, and she became his iron apprentice. Unfortunately for him, his new pupil's loss for revenge would end up getting him gravely wounded, being stripped down to his mere skeletal structure and tortured for 150 years. Elita 1 led a rescue party to retrieve him and was shocked to find him in his current status. Nonetheless, Elita persevered, carrying his emaciated but still massive form through the stronghold, trying to find a way out. Magnus, pushed to despair by his torture, begged Elita to put him out of his misery. Elita refused, but vowed that if the Decepticons captured them, she'd extinguish both their sparks before the Decepticons could have their way with them. Eventually, though, they found themselves cornered by the Combaticons. Magnus expressed relief at their impending demise, but Elita wouldn't give up just yet, and carried him through a mysterious corridor, unaware that it was a space bridge that led to an ongoing battle on the distant planet Earth. There, they encountered Optimus Prime, who transformed into his truck mode to carry the two castaways out of the battle. Magnus was reunited with RC and repaired the wheeljack using energy gathered from a dam, despite insisting to Prime that he wanted to join the resistance on Earth. Magnus was unable to bring himself to fight his captor, Shockwave, when the Autobots invaded the Nemesis to rescue Cliffjumper and Jazz, transforming and fleeing the battle. Shockwave was left to gloat about his success in breaking Magnus' mind. Having made his getaway, Magnus took refuge in the San Juan Island. There he lost himself, building a wooden stockade for his own protection. After the Decepticons' plan had failed, RC, Beachcomber, Spike, and Carly formed a search party to find Magnus. When they approached Magnus' fortress, he opened fire on them, not realizing who they were until RC called out to him. On entering the stockade, RC informed Magnus that Shockwave was dead, but this failed to assuage Magnus, whose belief in his fellow Cybertronian had been shattered by his experiences. Carly, having experienced the trauma of her father's death, argued that pain had a potential to bring very different beings together. Ultra Magnus was moved by her words, but before he could respond, Magnus saw human soldiers approaching the compound and opened fire. After Carly was hit by a tranquilizer dart, an enraged Magnus began seeing Shockwave in the attackers and ripped apart a helicopter over RC's protest. The Autobots attempt to flee, but the humans pressed their attack, and in the chaos, Magnus and Carly were captured. The army brought the unconscious Magnus to a secure facility. When Magnus woke up, he asked one of his captors about the Bible he was reading, and the human, Doc, explained that the book was the sort of that he read when confronted with things too big for him to comprehend. Magnus explained that he trying to find a similar solace in building in his compound when he was captured. Their conversation was interrupted by General Flak wheeling a device that began to inflict excruciating pain on Magnus. As the torture continued, Doc released Magnus' bindings, and Magnus smashed through the base until he found Carly and broke out of his facility. Once Magnus, Carly, and Doc were safely away, Doc asked to be let off so he could stay behind and face the consequences for his actions. When asked why he'd helped them, Doc explained that he too had faced captivity and torture. Seeing his commonality, Magnus asked Doc how he lived with such memories. Doc replied that he kept on going for the sake of those who relied on him, and asked Magnus if he had anyone like that. Preparing to roll out, Magnus realized that he did. This is what makes Ultra Magnus in the Energon universe so powerful. He is no longer just a soldier of steel, he is a reflection of the veterans of war. Warriors who return not only scared in body, but broken in spirit.